here are my two boundaries. I have my parabola, and I want it to be y is less than. So is that above the parabola or below?
Below.
It's below, good. So what I've got is this outside section here, if you like, okay? I've got all these parts around here. These are all inverted commas below the parabola, okay, good? Then I have y is greater than or equal to x plus 2. Now you'll notice, even though I see the boundary is included, y is greater than or equal to x plus 2, I have drawn it, for starters, I have drawn it without including it. And the reason why is because you can see immediately, without me having done any working, further than what I've already put on, see this part in here, inside, or should I say above the parabola, that portion of, whoop, that's a bit naughty, y equals x plus 2. That portion is already excluded from the region. Can you see that? Because it doesn't satisfy this green part that I've shaded, okay? So it can't be included. So even though this whole boundary is meant to be part of it, well, parts of that boundary are out, right? So as a rule of thumb, you draw all your boundaries as dotted lines, you draw all your points of intersection as hollow circles, and if you want to fill them in later, no problem, okay? But it's generally a bit harder to draw them solid or draw them filled and then rub them out after the fact when you're like, oh wait, not included, okay? So little lessons you learn. We want the straight line now. Am I above or below the straight line? I'm above, good. So what I've got really is, and I'm just going to do this in green, I'm above the line over here, right? So that's over up here in the corner, okay, above the straight line. And then over here, this straight line goes all the way down to the negative, okay? So this was all fair game. It was below the parabola, right? And I can go all the way down to here. But I can't go any further because I must remain above that y equals x plus 2. Okay, so it doesn't just like stop at the axis, it keeps going, okay? Now, then there are two things left, okay? Firstly, I've already put the intersection points on. The intersection points are always going to be part of the useful information. So you can see I just really quickly computed the x values and then I popped them into y equals x plus 2 to get their coordinates. Are they included or not?
No. Is it included in some and not others?
Now, I need to satisfy, I've rubbed it off. I need to satisfy all the inequalities at the same time, right? So if, for instance, like I have this straight line, I know it's included, right? But the parabola is not included, okay? So that means once you see at least one of them being not inclusive of the boundary, all of your points of intersection on the boundaries are already excluded. Does that make sense? Okay. So one of the boundaries doesn't do that, so therefore none of them can. Okay. So I leave them as hollow. There is one extra piece of information I now need to put on there, which is that having identified the right regions, I now have one more intercept, right? Namely, this guy over here, right? Had I been, for instance, above, okay, so maybe I was in here. That could be a possible, I wonder how you would change these inequalities in order to get that region. If I was above here, this intercept is no longer relevant because it's not included in the boundary, right? But at the moment, I go right through it. So I better put in that that's -2, okay? And that looks like it. You happy with that? Any questions? Right. Now when you have a look at 3, you can see there's more boundary lines coming in. I have 3 boundary lines, right? Let's just quickly talk through it. One of them is a circle. Oh wait, I'm not finished. You missed. Something I've missed. What I missed? Good, yes. I'm inclusive of this boundary, right? You gotta make sure you finish it off, okay? So I'm not inclusive of the intersection points, but outside there, right? For instance, this guy here. You see that, right? Can you see it is below the parabola, tick. It is on the line or above. That's what it means. On it or above. So it's okay. And in the same way, down here, this part is also included. So that becomes a solid line, right? No one picked it up. Okay, we're sleepy this morning. That's all right, I forgive you. Let's have a go at this one now. We've got a circle and 2 straight lines. Yes?
Why didn't you fill in the center part?
This part in here, doesn't satisfy that inequality, right? It's not below the parabola. It's above the parabola. So therefore, this part of the line isn't actually part of the boundary. And if I took a point like say that that would be 0, 2, right? 0, 2, if I put it in, wouldn't satisfy this and this at the same time. It would only satisfy that one, right? So therefore, since it doesn't satisfy this, because when you put it in, 2 is not less than 0, right? Therefore, this section of the boundary is not included. Okay, so that's why it stays bottom. Good question.